All right, man who needs no introduction, reacting to the prosecution close and the defense close today. Big Red and Jennifer Sprague squaring off in Plymouth County. It is the end of the Lindsay Clancy trial. Allan, your first thoughts, and I think you know Kevin a bit.
I
Do you
do.
know Jennifer, and are you at all familiar with this judge?
I'm not familiar with the judge, and I don't know either of the prosecutors. I do know Kevin, a very, very talented lawyer, very good lawyer. He's iconic in that area, um, in the New England area. He's been around for a long time. He's tried some huge cases. He's known to be big and brash and bombastic and extremely intelligent and very, very good in front of a jury. Look, no doubt about it on both sides. It's an extremely emotional case. It is a very, very tough job that the jurors have to deal with because they're dealing with an issue that most of us have read about sometime. Maybe you've seen a movie about it. Maybe you've read a crime story about it. But most people aren't confronted with this kind of emotion. A mother killing her children and then trying to kill herself. It's a very tough case. I thought Kevin did a masterful job of setting the tone of manipulation. That was his theme. What you heard from the prosecution was a manipulation of the facts, a manipulation of the law, a manipulation of how the witnesses testified, how they took and spun and twisted certain evidence to their benefit in order to make Lindsay look guilty.
Like this
The
total
realities.
premeditation. They talked about not only was she premeditated, but she was like I called it psychotic the other way, like
Right,
psychotically detailed and
right,
premeditated.
right.
Which I think that's I didn't need, did they need to
No,
go for that big of a bomb right there?
probably not. I know they feel like they are swimming against the tide. The prosecutors do. They should. If they don't know that, they should know that they're swimming against the tide because people don't do this. Like the natural instinct of someone listening to this is if mom kills their three toddlers, their three little ones, she's got to be crazy. She's got to be psychotic because no normal person would do that. And that is absolutely true. I mean, one of the things that struck me about the prosecution's opening salvos was um, being an apologist for an extraordinarily broken uh, medical psychological system. Or psychiatric system. It's like the medical industrial complex completely let Lindsay Clancy down. How many more times does she need to beg for help and not get it? How many more times does she need to say to doctor after doctor after doctor, primary care physician after primary care physician, I need help. I don't feel right. Something's not right here. I need help. I'm seeking and I'm searching for help. And their response, by and large, oftentimes was, well, are you psychotic? And if she said, no, I don't think I'm psychotic. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. They'd go, oh, okay. Well, then
Yeah.
here's a pill. Go, call me in 6 weeks and let me know how you're feeling. That's not the kind of help that she was seeking or that she needed. So for the prosecution to say, well, their first shot across the bow was the defense wants to just blame it on this medical industrial complex, and that's not on trial here. Yes, it is on trial here. And if you think it's not, then you're missing something about the zeitgeist of this issue, the communal discussion about this issue. Yes, the medical industrial complex, psychiatry, psychology, the help that people desperately need from a mental health standpoint, that is on trial here. And I think Kevin did an outstanding job of putting that on trial here,
What about all
clearly
the exhibits
establishing.
in there? I mean, Alan, I went through. I want to talk more about Reddington in detail, but the exhibits all over the floor. He's got poster board everywhere. He's got this bedside drawer. He's got bags of pills. I mean, these are all very effective things. He brought quarters out on the table. To Jennifer Sprague's credit, she was removing the quarters one at a time as she made her
Right,
point. This is a
right.
woman with very little personality, but at this moment, that was a spontaneous, because some of this stuff is performative. And then I read the jury who's on there. Can you believe this? I wonder what you would do. Like I mean, from my person inside the court. 4 college-age kids, one young pregnant woman, an older woman who's pissed off but clutching her cross. And we heard mortal sin. We heard the Catholic faith and weaponized against Lindsay. I mean, when you're doing your closing, and are you thinking about, oh God, these points belong to this group of people, this point belongs to that person?
100%. Yeah. By the time you get to a closing argument, you've done, look, as a trial lawyer, I feel very strongly that you shouldn't just sit there and stare at the jurors. It's very uncomfortable for them. It's invading their space. It's invading their province. But peripherally and just through almost osmosis, you learn who your jurors are as a trial lawyer over the course of hours and days and weeks, in some cases, months in other cases. The last case I had out on the East Coast was months long, and I knew the jurors. I thought I knew the jurors very, very well. So to your point, yes, if I'm making a point about morality and there's someone that I've seen every single day walk in with a cross, and dressed a certain way, and maybe carries him or herself with a certain countenance, and I feel like there's a religiosity or a moral fiber or fabric that is built around this person. Yeah, I'm going to direct certain comments to that person. If someone's leaning back and crossing their arms, and I've seen them roll their eyes during certain witnesses or things of that nature, and I'm making a point about that witness or the credibility of those witnesses, I will direct my comments directly. I will make eye contact and lock eyes with that witness for that very specific purpose. I might even say something in closing argument. Some of you might not have appreciated certain testimony that came in, but here's the reason why that testimony is credible and why it follows follows our theory. And if you're following the law and following the facts, this needs to be believed. I'll make those points. I'm assuming that Kevin, very, very, very polished, and when I say polished, I mean very experienced, very different styles that he and I have, but he's a very experienced trial lawyer, and I'm sure he was directing certain comments to certain jurors to emphasize certain points, because he knows once you take the bit out of the horse's mouth, right, and you unbridle that horse, that jury goes back. You realize there's a loss of control. That jury goes back into a deliberation room, and you've lost all control. You have one last chance to make a point and to try to get a jury or a juror to make your points back in the deliberation room. So I'm sure Kevin was doing that in a very, very effective way.
I thought also Jennifer Sprague was better than I thought she'd be. I mean, I thought she was coming out with all kinds of notes.
She was good. No, she was good. She was very prepared. Yeah, she was good.
Very prepared.
And I will say you said this is performative to a certain degree. The courtroom there is a certain amount of theater to a courtroom, every single courtroom. If you're going to do something like theatrical, like set quarters out on the table, you better have your ducks in a row such that someone can't use that against you and pull those quarters off and make their point by using your theater against you. I've done this before, where I've walked up to a whiteboard and leave an empty whiteboard and have a big, bold red or black marker and set a marker down right in front of my opponent to say, there's a couple of questions that they can't answer. And if they don't answer it, then that tells you everything you need to know about their case. And I'll set the marker right in front of them. They don't even have to use their paper. They don't have to use their marker. I'll give them the marker and set it down. But when I've done that, I know they can't answer that question, and they'll set it aside.
Reddington should have taken his quarters to quarters with him. But one thing he's definitely more of a personality. He connected with
for sure
with the jury,
and that's the style. And there's I think it's very thought out by him. He's going to have all these exhibits. He's not worried about the hyper polish of having something, with square corners. He's going to set a bag of evidence over here, and he's going to grab something off the floor there, and he's going to walk up to the jury and walk back. He's developing a chemistry with that jury as best he can. So he's not just robotically just repeating lines. He's going to try to develop as much chemistry as he can. That's his style. He's very good at it.
What do you think of, I thought his connection also, not just with the jury, very strong. And with the audience, clearly people out in, social media land love the guy, but he seems to know the judge. I feel like like they used to play like softball together or something. I mean, I'm making that up, but I feel
Yeah,
like the
I
judge
don't
sort of
know.
takes his cues from Big Red. He's kind of like, the judge will be like, we're going to take a recess here, right? Should we take a recess, Kev? And like he's looking at Reddington and Reddington.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a real
Yeah, look,
connection between
they're
them.
definitely colleagues. They're of the same generation. They're
They
when I
know
say
each other.
colleagues, I don't know that they know each other. I have no idea, but
Must.
I would certainly, I if Kevin's been around forever, the judge has been around forever. It's almost impossible. And that one thing about the Boston area, the greater Boston area, everybody knows everybody. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just unfathomable to me how everybody can know everybody. You walk into a restaurant, even I got to the point where I would rarely go out to a restaurant or something that I didn't see somebody that I even knew, and I've only been there a couple of years. So yeah, I'm sure they are professional colleagues and have an enormous amount of respect for one another.
What are the possible options here? We don't know the
Well,
jurors. I read a little bit about them, but we've heard the closing. We've on both sides. If you had to call it,
I don't think that 12 people are going to find Lindsay Clancy guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. If I had to handicap this, I don't see it happening. I don't think that the evidence is there for the prosecution. They did she as you indicated, the prosecutor did a yeoman's job. She did a very workmanlike job of presenting her closing argument, saving the most emotional portion of it for very, very, very last. The part where she described the ligatures around the children's necks, et cetera, et cetera. But she also basically was spending most of her time excusing away the rampant failures of the medical industry, how the
oh, she was
medical
blaming Lindsay for the drugs.
well,
In fact, she was like, "Oh, I
right.
mean, I think I
As
wrote
if
it."
she's supposed to as if she's supposed to know what she's taking, what she's not taking. She's also not
Oh
supposed to
yeah.
be just based on self-reporting. You can't prescribe medication and you can't engage in robust and thorough medical help, medical care when it comes to mental health issues. Like she said, you can't see a mental health issue. It's not like a cut that you can suture. You have to dig in deep, and just allowing Lindsay to sort of self-report and then turning around and blaming Lindsay when she says, no, I wasn't being completely honest about this, or I omitted that, or I didn't want Patrick to even know that I was on Prozac back in the day. All of those things are indicative of someone who is sliding down the scale of mental health disease, of being in the clutches of a serious mental health devolvement, an issue that is devolving daily, weekly, yearly, to the point that it got to the point that she was hearing things, feeling things that she could no longer control. And to that point, the prosecution made this big deal of talking about the voices or the voice that, well, the voice said different things and the voice said this and the voice said that, almost as if there's a speaker on your shoulder and you turn the volume up and down and the voice is speaking into your ear. That's not how internal mechanisms work when you quote unquote hear voices. That's not what is meant by that. You don't necessarily hear a specific voice with a tone and a tenor um, talking to you. It's a thought. It's something that's happening inside your head. It's a thought, it's a feeling, it's overwhelming you if you are, in the clutches of a psychotic episode or suffering from psychosis. But it's not like, okay, well, the voice on day 1 said, "Kill your kids and then kill yourself." And on day 2, the voice said, "You need to kill yourself, but you need to kill your kids first." It doesn't work. Uh, you can't attack that by saying, well, the voice said 2 different things, so you can't believe that there was ever a voice in the first place. It is an overwhelming thought. It's a feeling. It's a sense that you get, and there's no speaker in your head that's turned on with a male voice or a female voice necessarily, or a child's voice or an adult's voice. It's a feeling and a thought, and we lack as human beings the ability to put a word to that. So what we end up doing is calling it a voice. It's a voice that told me to do something. It's an overwhelming impulse that comes from a psychotic episode or psychosis that you're in the clutches of. And that impulse cannot be controlled because it is a mental illness. And you cannot, under the law, you cannot be held responsible for your conduct if you are operating under the influence of a mental health disease that is controlling you rather than you controlling it.
Well, you said it's going to be hard for 12 people. The idea that 12 people are going to come together and think that she premeditatedly did this. She knew what she was doing.
I don't think they will. I don't think they will.
Will
Is there
12
one
people
person
come
on the
together?
jury who can hang it and say, yeah, I think she's guilty because the children, it's just too emotional for me. I can't vote that she's not responsible. She's not criminally liable. Maybe there's a juror who will say that. I don't think that there's 12 who are going to say that.
Is there 12 the other way?
Yeah, I think there are. I think there's a good chance that that Lindsay Clancy will be determined to not be to lack the mental the mens rea to have premeditated the death of those children.
Okay. God, it's just
we'll see. I don't know, and I don't know how quick the verdict's going to be either. It's an emotional case. It's a big case. These jurors tend to take every case very seriously. They will absolutely take this case very, very, very seriously. I expect that they'll go through a lot of the evidence. They'll probably ask for readback here or there from this expert or that expert. It was very expert driven, the entire trial. So my sense is it's not going to be a super quick verdict. But my gut reaction, if I had to handicap this, is the prosecution has not met their burden. Not even close. It's even if
thumbnail, Harry.
What's that?
I said, I'm speaking like inside baseball. I said, there's your thumbnail, Harry. Talking to Harry, my producer, I said, Allan Jackson makes the call. Prosecution has not met, in your opinion, it's just an opinion, but has not met the burden. It's a big burden. It's a big burden in this case. You know, I was talking to Dr. Drew yesterday, and I was just like, my feeling is she's in jail. I mean, if this jury sits there and goes, absolutely, we're all better off if we send Lindsay Clancy to jail for first-degree murder. We're all better. I got a feeling, what they're seeing is a massive breakdown in the psychiatric field, in the medical field, and in our whole system, and our lack of primary care, and just the confusion and the prescriptions and all this crap. It's scary because they're all thinking, geez, that could be my kid. That could be me. Like, and nobody knows, their ass from their face on this thing. So what's really on trial to me is the system, is the medical, complex here.
The medical complex, exactly.
That's on trial. So if you just send her to jail, you're punting on that type of a referendum.
And it's happened too often. The justice system is very poorly equipped to handle mental health issues. It just is. There's just no two ways about it. I've been in the justice system for over 30 years, and it's just a very, very, it's a very foreign thing to the justice system. The justice system looks at conduct. You either did something and that's against the law, or you didn't do something and that's against the law. That is binary. This kind of case tests the justice system and stretches it to its breaking point, because you cannot say, look, Kevin Reddington took a position very early on by pleading the case this way, conceding that she killed those 3 kids. But that is only the beginning of the inquiry. That is not the end of the inquiry. The prosecution sees this like to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Well, okay, she killed the kids, so she's got to go to jail. That is not the end of the inquiry. Like you said, Billy, very articulately, the system, the medical industrial complex is on trial because how much more, based on the evidence that I heard, how much more was Lindsay expected to do to cry out for help? It wasn't just to cry out for help, like to her husband or to her best friend or in a journal. She went to the medical professionals and she said, I need to check myself in. No, turned away. I need to come in. I cannot be trusted with myself. No, go away. And then this happens, this tragedy happens. And the prosecution comes back and says, well, last time I checked, she killed the kids. But that's not the real inquiry. The inquiry is, did she understand the character and quality of her conduct in the moment that she took those those kids' lives. And I don't believe that
I don't think the prosecution.
prosecution has proved it.
No, I don't. They had a hard time even broaching it. It
Right.
seems we're
Right.
looking at a picture of Reddington here as the. I'll put it up there, but he looks like he's taking a nap. No, he's back. He might be. I don't know what's going on with Big Red right there, but the judge is still kind of giving his take.
Yeah.
It's sort of fascinating. But anyway, I don't think anyone knows this, or they do, but not enough people know. Wasn't Reddington involved in the Karen Reed trial? Didn't he?
Yeah. We're not necessarily adverse to each other, other than he represented a witness in the Karen Reed trial.
And McCabe.
Jennifer McCabe. Yeah.
He represented McCabe. So what happened, as soon as this thing broke down, she called him, and the battle with for him was over McCabe's phone.
There was subpoenas and things of that nature. Right.
Yeah. You had to subpoena him. So, I can't imagine that he was passionately involved, but again, in Boston, everybody knows everybody. So Jennifer McCabe calls him. He had to protect the phone, which of course had the Haas long to die in cold. Boy, Reddington's been all over the town, but you had to. But that was a quick thing. You had to get the phone subpoenaed, and Reddington had to try and keep it out of the situation. But that was over very quickly, huh?
Yeah, pretty quickly. That was not a lengthy battle at all. He came in to protect her interests in terms of fighting a subpoena that we had submitted to try to get her actual phone and get her extraction, et cetera. So it was not a lengthy battle, but it was for what it was hard fought.
Is it?
But we've never, Kevin and I have never, I mean, he's always been a gentleman to me and very nice. When I've seen him, we're very civil to one another. We don't know each other very well, but I know him by reputation, and he's got a good one.
Here, look at Diana on the screen here. Mr. Jackson, I was crying seeing your Karen Reed closing. It was brilliant. No question about that. I was bawling when all of you walked out onto the stairs, and the hugging and the family and seeing that beautiful Bill Reed, father of Karen. Jeez, what a sweet guy. Text me stuff.
Yeah, that was that seeing Karen and Bill together was one of the most it is tattooed in my mind. I'll never forget the visual of looking over my shoulder, turning around and watching a dad hug his daughter for the first time, knowing that she has beaten this thing, that the false allegations were finally over.
Oh my God, Allan, what is this woman doing right here? She's shaking a box.
Christ Almighty! This is she's picking the alternates. She's figuring out which jurors are actually in Massachusetts. To me, it's very foreign because in California, we do it a very different way. We know who the 12 jurors are that we're talking to throughout the entire trial, and we might have 5 alternates. I don't know. There might be 17 jurors on the panel, but 5 of them are alternates, and we know who the alternates are from the beginning. So we also, conversely, we know who the jurors are who are going to be deliberating. In Massachusetts, they might pick 17 people. And you have no idea who the jurors are going to be until right now that the clerk is naming the names of the people who are not going. She's going to pick 5 names. If there's 17, she's going to pick 5 names. And those people are told for the first time, you're not deliberating. They're alternates. So it's a giant letdown for them.
Oh my God, they've been living in a They've been living in a Best Western for 3 weeks.
Yeah. No, it's
and that's
brutal.
now
It's
you don't
brutal.
even matter.
Billy, I don't know. I could not endorse this type of system. To me, it's just too brutal for the jurors. The jurors should know the position that they're taking.
Listen, they're all welcome here to come and finish the job right here with me.
Yeah. So right now there are a number of jurors who are sitting there going, "Oh my God, are you kidding me? I've sat through this whole thing, and now I don't get to deliberate."
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I don't know, who knows what Billy Sullivan is doing. I do love the name Billy Sullivan. It's a real Boston guy.
Doesn't get any better than that. Kevin Reddington, Billy Sullivan. Are you kidding? They almost have to be friends. How could they not be friends? If they weren't friends before, they got to be friends now.
Yeah. I want to let the chat ask a few questions here. It's a beautiful thing. The internet has many positives and negatives. One of the positives is, access for a minute to one of the great, defense attorneys. Oh, there goes Harry.
Can I please? May I? I mean, listen, we know
Just don't fanboy too much, Harry. I've got you. It reflects on me.
Allan.
Talk to me.
Reddington hit an emotional nerve. It was clear. I mean, I was emotional watching it. How important is that connection? I mean, clearly the prosecution had zero. Reddington was pulling on everyone's heartstrings.
Yeah.
How important is that to the process?
You cannot overstate the importance of drawing the jury into the story, right? It's not, you're not just talking about numbers on a page. It's not just the antiseptic determination of what a jury instruction sounds like and applying this fact to this law. It is a story. And if you miss that opportunity in closing argument to humanize your client, to accept, look, Kevin accepted responsibility for Lindsay on her behalf. He said, we didn't run from it. We didn't hide from it. We know what happened. We know how devastating and how tragic it was, but she was not herself. It was not her that was doing this. And it was necessary for him to draw the jurors into that sort of discussion and that sort of theme and theory and thought process. He could not leave that jury with the idea that this young woman, as he called her over and over and over, I don't know if you noticed, they use this phrase in Boston a lot, and it's not pejorative at all. It's endearing to a great degree. He called her kid many times. That's a phrase that I never used growing up. And certainly as an older guy, I don't
Good kid.
I don't use that phrase with others. It's not part of my lexicon, but it's very much part of the fabric of the Boston area. And he called her kid over and over. That was by design. He's humanizing her. She's just a kid. She was doing the best she could. She had these 3 little kids. She was struggling. She was struggling with depression. She was struggling, being overwhelmed. She had these mental health issues. She had these demons that she could not exercise by herself. This kid who sits now in a wheelchair, and she will be in that prison for the rest of her life, the prison of her mind, the prison of her heart, the prison of that wheelchair, a daily reminder that she will never get over, not one day, not 1 minute, not 1 second of the rest of her life. She knows what happened. She knows the loss and the devastation, but she wasn't in her right mind when she did it. And we do not, as a society, as a civilized society, we do not criminalize illness. And this young lady, this kid, she was ill. So that's the kind of emotion that he was able to draw out and I think was extremely necessary.
We have friends at home, 60-year-old guys. I call and say hello. The response is, how you doing, kid?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's a term of endearment, and he needed to do that with her. Of course, conversely, the prosecution needed to try to do that with the children, which is what she did at the very end when she talks about the devastation of, wrapping ligatures, these workout bands around the necks of these children, and talking about how long it takes for that tragic thing to happen. I sort of expected that she would have a stopwatch. If I were trying to make that point from an emphasis standpoint and an emotional standpoint, I might have taken a watch and one old fashioned and clicked it where you can hear the tick, 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 and waited for 30 seconds and asked the jurors to think about how long 30 seconds really is. That's pretty devastating as well. And it's incumbent upon the prosecution to try to wrestle back that emotion from the defense and the empathy that the jurors tend to feel for the defendant, and put the empathy back on the kids. It's a fight back and forth.
Jeez. Is Karen Reed been she must, I mean, she's such a smart cookie. She must have been watching this trial. I imagine
I'm
she's
sure
glued.
she's watching a lot. I don't know how much of it she's watched, but she's certainly aware of it. She's certainly aware of it. We've talked a few times about some of the nuances of this case.
I mean, you look at, I think Reddington, did what he had to do.
I do too. I
Walked
agree, Billy.
around
I think,
without notes. He spoke like a straight shooting Boston guy. He used
yeah,
the word, you talk about kid. He used young lady a bunch of times. The way he hammered. You see, Jennifer Sprague struggled. I think of this as like there's first chair lawyers and there's second chair lawyers and third chair lawyers.
right.
Reddington's a first chair lawyer. Allan Jackson is a first chair lawyer. Jennifer Sprague is probably very bright and she could be helpful, on your team, but she's not a first chair lawyer. And when when Reddington, it lands differently when he's going, read these horrible thoughts, horrible thoughts, horrible thoughts. You feel every ounce of it when he makes his points. And when she says she knew that she couldn't wait she couldn't be patient taking her medicine. She took matters into her own hands. She couldn't stick with one provider and one plan. And it's just it doesn't.
It lacked the emotion that Kevin was able to draw out, and he used the evidence to do it. For instance, at that point in his closing, I thought it was extremely effective to say, look at her journal. Go back and sit there and look at her journal. And she talks about, I'm having horrible thoughts, horrible thoughts, horrible thoughts. And then that devolved into gibberish just days before this is happening. That is literally a paradigm of what's happening in her head. We talk about the fact you can't see mental illness. You can see it on that page. And that's what he did, is he drew it off the page, pulled it off the page and said, look at what she's saying. This is her begging. She's begging and begging and begging. And this medical industrial complex who does not care about her and cares about the bottom line and cares about the money and cares about the insurance and, all the things that you could put them on trial for. They left her out in the cold. And this is what happens when you refuse someone who's reaching out for help, who's begging for the very help that she was entitled to. This is the result. This is the tragedy that occurs. And we don't criminalize that. It's tragic, but let's fix the problem. The problem is not putting her in prison for the rest of her life. The problem is she didn't get the help she needed.
Someone asked, should this have ever come to trial?
I mean, that's a $1 million question. I don't believe that there's a circumstance in which a case like this doesn't come to trial. I mean, like I said, the justice system, it has to do its job, right? It has to do its job.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't think that someone would just throw their hands up and say, we've got 3 deceased little kids and a mother who tried to kill herself. Nah, we're not even going to worry about it.
Also, if it doesn't come to trial, there is no referendum. There is no this. We're not talking about this, and we got to be talking about this.
Sometimes cases need to be tried. This case needed to be tried. It needed to, to use your word, there needs to be a referendum, a discussion, a robust and thorough discussion about this situation. And this trial was the perfect platform to launch that discussion. But do I believe that she is legally responsible for the death of those children? I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Here's a question from Nicole. Having seen how Massachusetts juries handle forensic psych battles, how well do you think the defense neutralized professionals' claim that she was still capable of rational, goal-directed behavior?
I think that that's a really good question, very articulate question. Right. I think Kevin did a really, really nice job of dismantling the prosecution experts, and he didn't have to just beat up on them from a theatrical standpoint. He used his experts. Resnick, I think, was the lead expert on his team. He used his experts, who trained a lot of the other people's experts, to say that this is a classic example of postpartum psychosis, not just postpartum depression, but postpartum psychosis, where you go into a psychotic state. and you lose the ability to understand the character and quality of your conduct. And people misunderstand that quite a bit. And I think Kevin did a good job, along with his experts, of explaining it doesn't, well, she grabbed a band and she wrapped it around their necks and pulled it tight. So she had to know what she was doing, and knew she had enough consciousness to know that she wanted to do it while she was alone, when Patrick wasn't in the house. She used a band to do it, which is a perfect ligature. When you're going through a psychotic episode, it doesn't mean you lose the ability to understand the world around you, right? I know that I still know that this is a phone. I know that this is a microphone. I still know how to drive a car. I can still put my shoes on, right foot right, left foot left. People tend to think, well, after the incident, the person hid the weapon, or didn't call the police, or tried to cover up for the conduct. You can still understand the world around you, but in the moment, the psychosis overtakes your ability to understand the difference between right and wrong as we perceive it, and in a civilized society. You
Yeah.
lose the ability to understand the character and quality of your conduct because you believe that there is, for instance, in this case, a necessity. She had to take the lives of the kids and take them with her because she was undergoing this psychotic break, the psychotic moment. It doesn't mean that she's going to try to use a banana to kill them. Of course, she's going to use a ligature. That does not make her. It does not make her normal, for lack of a better word or phrase, in terms of her mental health. She could still be completely in the clutches of a psychotic break. And I thought Kevin did a really nice job, along with his experts, of diffusing the prosecution's experts. There's nothing their experts could say, nothing they could say about the fact that she was reaching out over and over and over, attempting to get help. There's nothing they could do about that.
I mean, how bad was that expert, Dr. Avram Mack, who just seemed,
I heard a lot of talk about him, but
Okay.
candidly, I didn't see his testimony.
Red and he were like this.
Really?
Absolute hatred of this. The YouTube clips of the two of them going back and forth, unbelievable. He can't stand it.
What was Mac's thesis? What was
He's a
he
forensic
there for?
psychiatrist who he just seemed to wanted to fight with Reddington every single step of the way. But
Well,
of course,
that's a bad look. Just on its face, that's a really bad look for an expert.
yeah, no, he wouldn't answer anything straight. He's like, answer the question, guy. Jesus.
Right.
And he just got into this cockfight with Reddington.
Right, well,
and Reddington, he's dumb enough to know that Reddington has a likability to him and is connecting with the jury. Are you not watching them? And
that plays right into Reddington's hands, especially in the closing argument when the jurors are hearkening back to how recalcitrant this expert is. I heard Reddington say over and over and over, this is complete manipulation. Like, they didn't want to answer questions. They didn't want to be confronted with the issues that are right in front of us. I'm guessing he was hearkening back to that. If these experts are just objective, scientific experts, they shouldn't even engage in a fight. Answer the question. You've got nothing to hide. If you're telling the truth, it's all going to be your opinion should be unassailable. If they're fighting, that means you're on the defensive. That means you, as the expert, know you're on the defensive, and that plays right into a lawyer's hands.
Good question here from Casey Bradley. She says, similar to the Karen Reed case, do you think this would be a different trial if a proper investigation was done?
I did see yesterday that, interesting to that point. It's actually a very good question. I saw yesterday that Reddington asked for a Bowden instruction, and I'm extraordinarily familiar with a Bowden instruction because we got one in Karen's case because of the failure of the investigation. He did not get one, which I was interested in. I didn't watch enough of the trial to know why that was, but the judge gently and respectfully declined to give that instruction, although Kevin asked for it. So there must have been some suggestion that the case was very, very poorly investigated. When he was arguing for the Bowden instruction yesterday, Kevin said, and I didn't hear him emphasize it as much today, but he said there was failure after failure after failure after failure. These cops walked in, they see 3 dead kids, they see a woman sitting outside. The husband says she said she did it. Case closed, like done.
Case closed.
But they
Oh,
didn't.
he said to them, he pointed to them in the courtroom, shame.
Right, 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 right. And so,
I
yeah,
mean,
I think answer the question, yeah, similar to Karen's case, I think that does have an impact. Jurors expect they damn well should expect a level of perfection when it comes to homicide cases, especially. I mean, these are life and death cases. These are the gravity doesn't get any greater than a homicide case. And if you're going as the state, if you're going to take the position that we as a government are going to take the most precious thing we have as a citizen, which is our liberty, we're going to take that away for the rest of your life, you damn well better get it right. And I don't mean just right. You better get it perfect. And so if you don't, that should weigh very, very heavily on any jury who's weighing and balancing the value of the prosecution that's in front of them.
and that's another referendum. I mean,
Yeah,
is
right.
what we, as your case revealed, with Karen Reed,
Yeah.
that this
Yeah, I think policing
investigation,
at
tell me
large,
this open
I'm
and shut.
probably not the I'm probably
Yeah.
not, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm probably not the right person to ask, but I think prosecutions and investigations writ large in the Massachusetts area are desperately lacking, desperately wanting. I mean, now we've got the Birchmore fiasco. There's the Miles King fiasco. Karen Reed's was a fiasco. It's one after another after another. I think something needs to be done. The entire investigative complex needs to be burned down and rebuilt by somebody. I don't know who's going to do it, but the Massachusetts investigative complex is an absolute abject disaster.
I don't know enough about the Miles King situation. All I know is that my old friend Peter Murphy, the 30-year sergeant from the Canton PD, sent me a text going, "I'm over here at the Miles King trial. Man, that's happening right now." And
There's
he
a
told
hearing.
me,
I think there's a hearing today. Yeah.
he said there's a hearing. He's there. He said Adam Lally, who you faced in the first Karen Reed trial as the prosecutor,
Yeah.
is getting absolutely destroyed
I
by
just heard that.
Rosemary Scapicchio, who's
Yeah.
another one of those Boston person. Rosemary
Yeah.
Scapicchio is going to be representing Lindsay
Yeah.
in her civil trial, her malpractice civil trial. It's got Rosemary, who's another, put her up there as a Boston personality, but she's apparently handing Lally a new one, according to Peter at this point.
Yeah. I got a text message this morning from someone I won't name that suggested the same thing, that there's some indication, at least in the hearing, what's coming out, what I heard was coming out, is that there was some very exculpatory information that was not turned over. And Adam Lally's right in the middle of that discussion.
There's so much going on in Boston. I mean, they're just entertaining us constantly. They're keeping true crime afloat here. They're keeping Court TV in business.
Keeping you in business.
You're keeping me in business. I'm fascinated by it all. I went to high school just down the road in Rhode Island. So, where is, if I'm to talk to Karen Reed, when I do, I want to know where Karen Reed becomes. She can stop having this fight these things, having to fight on this front. I mean, I've never seen him
from your mouth to God's ears. Yeah, no kidding.
She's
no
too
kidding.
smart. I'd rather be talking to her about this trial right now and getting her thoughts. But I mean,
Right.
is she? When will she be done with all of this?
I don't know.
This
These civil cases. No, it won't be this year. These civil cases have a life of their own. They take an enormous amount of time. They're slow. They slog. They go through the system very, very slowly. Unlike criminal cases, which tend to be far more expeditious. So I don't know when she's going to get done. I hope it's sooner than later. Obviously, I want her out from under the albatross of the legal system altogether. But I don't know when it's going to be done. It's not going to be anytime soon, sadly.
Yeah, it just goes on forever, right? And you get going in the Fraser Bohm case, which is out here in Los Angeles, out in Malibu. Fraser Bohm, 22-year-old kid, I think at the time, right?
He had 21 in one day. So yeah, he was 22 by one day. His birthday was the day before.
And your job is they're trying to go for second-degree murder. The kid was being chased allegedly by a menacing character known in the Malibu community who was road raging and chasing him and he's trying to get away from the guy. He didn't have an ounce of alcohol in him, but he did. Car slid out and banged into some other cars around something called Dead Man's Curve, which you'd want to see repaved or at least rerouted in Malibu. And 4 girls in college, they were between the cars, just wrong place, wrong time, sliding doors, and they're dead. But they want to put this guy away for murder, which is, kind of what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Again, I think it's another example. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I've said it to the prosecution. I've said it to the judge. I think it's a wild example of prosecutorial overreach. There are crimes in the penal code and the vehicle code that address this exact kind of situation where somebody has no criminal record. They're not on the phone. They're not texting. They're not emailing. There's no drugs. There's no alcohol. There's nothing. He's just driving his car. And because he was trying to create some distance between himself and a perceived threat, the speed got out of hand. He lost control of the car, and it's just a tragic accident. And they want to prosecute him. They are prosecuting him for 4 counts of second-degree murder and put him in prison for 60 years to life in prison. So it's just that's my next fight, is trying to save this young man's life.
Are you prepared for that? Have you started to prepare
Oh
for
yeah.
that?
Oh yeah. We've been preparing for months and months and months for this trial, and it's coming up in the next couple of weeks. But yes, we are fully prepared to battle that.
And that, of course, is another the criminal trial. So you will be it will be done in a matter of weeks, right? I mean, maybe in the month of September.
I expect that the trial will be about 3 weeks. Maybe it'll go into the 4th week, something like that. But yeah, most of September will be Fraser's case.
All right. Well, we'll be there. We'll be there with you for sure.
Thanks, man.
Any final thoughts here on as we
No,
take a look at this? What are you feeling right now? If you are Kevin Reddington, what do you feel? The chairs are empty. They've gone. They're deliberating.
What he's probably thinking right now is he's done everything that he can possibly do. He's met the challenge. He's protected this young lady in a way that she deserved to be protected. He's fought very hard for her. I don't believe that the prosecution has met their burden, nowhere close to their burden. There's no question about what happened. It's why it happened. And the prosecution has a very high burden to get into the mind of Lindsay Clancy and to prove that she wanted to and did deliberately and with premeditation murder those 3 children for no other reason than she just felt like it that day. Just felt like it. That is a very, very hard pill to swallow. It's going to be a hard pill to swallow for the jurors. They're going to, I believe, they're going to gravitate toward Kevin's point, which is nobody would do this if they were not in the clutches of a psychotic break. Nobody would do this. There's no indication whatsoever that she had anything except deep, abiding love for those 3 little kids. And she mourns their loss. If she's out of the psychosis at this point, which I suspect she is medicated and probably getting the help that she needs now, at least some of it. She mourns their loss every single day, every second of every single day. I don't think the jurors are going to be compelled to convict her of murder.
There it is on the screen, Allan. Jury is now deliberating, and this could be, the rest of the day. It could be all day tomorrow. Maybe they come back Monday, but, I guess this is what we're going to look at.
Yep.
On screen until it comes back. And I mean, I can't imagine this is really that quick. I would expect at least 24 hours to 48. I mean,
yeah, I would think that. I think a safe bet is the verdict's going to be next week sometime, probably Monday or Tuesday, I would guess. I don't think that they'll have a verdict by tomorrow. It's most of today will be. What time is it there? 1 o'clock. They're gonna just set the tone for what happens inside the deliberation room. How the 4-person is going to coordinate the deliberation process. They'll probably ask for certain evidence. They're going to be gathering evidence in. If there's electronic evidence, like videos and things of that nature, they're going to ask for a computer. They're going to have to figure out the mechanism and the logistics of putting all that together. Today is going to be a lot of logistics, and I think tomorrow we'll start, maybe late today, early tomorrow, we'll start the robust discussions about the actual charges and the elements within the charges. And I just can't imagine that they would have a verdict by tomorrow, but could be. Obviously, we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. But if I was a betting man, I'd say it's probably going to be Monday, maybe Tuesday.
Well, I can't thank you enough for your time, your insight. There is nobody better, and we really appreciate it, dude. Thank you. What great analysis, and you took us right there. You took us to the front row, and that's
Billy.
what it's all about.
Always nice to see you, brother.
I love you. There's the great Allan Jackson, folks, breaking it down. That is lucky. He was great to respond, and timing worked out perfectly. The man, of course, a great dad, drops his daughter off, and then he gets to the office, and he's like, okay, let's do it. But he's got like 7 ears, Allan Jackson. He's got 1 ear on the trial, 1 ear on the thing. Nothing gets past him. Make sure you hit subscribe. Thanks for being with us. Oh, he's still there listening in. Hit subscribe on Hot Mics with Billy Bush. We got a whole new big season coming up starting September 14th, actually right when Allan gets going in his trial. So we'll be with him every step of the way as we launch on a whole new platform with a whole new operation. It's very exciting. Allan, I love you. Thank you.
See you, buddy.
See ya. There he goes. And thank you, folks. The jury's deliberating, and when it's over, we'll all get together and talk about it, as we do. Bless you.
Me doing me, right?
Kind of sharp. That's insane. Belly bash.
Another compliment. There she is.